So where do you start on this content marketing journey? Well, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go over some real basic stuff of like some steps that you can do. Then I'm going to show you how CFB ISD took content marketing and made it work in our district. And I'll show you some specific things that we did. But really quick, let me go through the process that we go through to develop good content and make sure we're doing the best that we can do when we develop this process. And of course, every campaign should start with goals. What do you want to achieve with your content marketing campaign? And you can't just say, we want to attract parents. That's not good enough. I'm sure a lot of you have heard you need to have a SMART goal in mind. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. You need to use specific numbers. Do you want to increase enrollment in kindergarten by 2%? Do you want 3% more people going into the academies? You really need to define who your target audience is and how much you want to increase those people coming back to your schools or enrolling in your schools. It needs to be very, very specific. Be clear about that because it's a good way to measure your ROI and it's a good way to measure if your campaigns are successful than just, we want parents and students to come back to our school district. It needs to be specific. And the most important thing, the step 2, is defining your audience. Who is this content going to attract and who do you want it to attract? You need to know everything you can about a specific audience. And Ed Moore in his first session, I love what he said about you need to go for smaller groups than niche audiences rather than big sum. You can't just say, I want to get all parents to read this content and enroll their kids in school. There's an old rule by an old marketing professor, the 80-20 rule, where you should spend 80% of your time concentrating on your top 20% of your customers. Although now with social media and the targeting, the new philosophy is 96-4. Spend 96 of your hours concentrating on the 4% of the people you want to attract. That's huge. But those are the ways you're going to get into the inroads and getting these people to come back or to stay in your school districts. So here's a little clip. I'm a very big pop culture film buff. Love Wes Anderson. He's a Texas guy. So watch this and see sort of how it relates of what you need to be doing in your district. Okay, so you need to know everything about your audience before you start that campaign like I mentioned. This is the one time you don't listen to Vanilla Ice saying, come with a hero, don't go with a zero. You need to be zero, like this lobby boy, and you need to know everything about your audience. Their likes, their dislikes, what they read, what blogs they're on. And you can do this through social listening on social media by listening and looking at some of the people that follow your, what other pages do they like? What other things are they attracted to? You can do this through surveys, things like that, but you need to know more about your audience to build the content that's going to resonate with them, which is the third step. You need to start brainstorming and coming up with ideas of how you're going to build this and what type of content you're going to put out that's really going to resonate with your audience. And we'll look back at this again. Are they going to prefer video? Are they going to prefer infographics? You need to know what they're going to like and how it's going to attract them. Next, content creation. And this is not really about coming up with the ideas. This is more about who's going to do it, how are they going to do it, and what's the process going to be about building the content. I will tell you right now that what we have found is they don't want the content coming from the communications department. They want it coming from the experts in the school district, people that they relate to. And who are those experts? Teachers, school leadership, the counselors. But you do need to treat this almost like a newsroom or a publishing company. You need to have things where they create the content, maybe write the story, then someone that adds the visuals, then someone that edits it and see if you need to add anything. You need to think about call to actions that you're going to put in your blog. What's the next step after they read that? Do you want to push them to a program that the blog is talking about? Do you want to, if they're watching a video, do you want to have at the end, check out more information here? You need to have a next step in that process. So for one-man shops or for people that have a large department, you just need to think about that process. It does pay off, though. But you have to remember that content marketing is not a very quick answer. It takes consistent content being put out that's going to build with the audience, and the payoff's going to be probably 6 months to a year after you really establish that audience and really establish that content. We see a lot more on our blog. Now, we have a blog called schoolahoop.com, and it's a parenting blog. And the Google traffic we get now, the search traffic, has doubled, tripled because of the consistent content that we're putting out there. So you do have to remember that about content marketing. And then content distribution, where are you going to put it? Owned? Is it going to be on your website? Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be on your social media channels? Those are the ones that you used to have a little bit more control of. Although I will warn you that with algorithm changes and things that are happening out there, social media is more of a rented space than an owned space. You need to be very careful. These companies could go belly up at any time because they make one wrong move. I mean, I will tell you, look at Snapchat. It is held steady because of the real young audience, but Instagram is eating its lunch. So if you put all your money into Snapchat, and then now all the kids think Instagram stories is really cool, and you rented all that land, and then all of a sudden there's no one there anymore to do that. You need to be very careful about rented land. That's why a website's very important still, in my opinion. And so a lot of your very own media, be very careful about rented space. And then paid, like I said before, you got to have people out there knowing what's going on. You got to promote it through social media, and a lot of times that's going to cost some money. Pay to play. It's just the world we're in right now. And earn, your most important thing that you want to get to is shareable content. You want your content to be so good that the mom that reads that content shares it with all her friends, cuts it out, prints it off the internet, and puts it on the refrigerator. I don't know. But she shares it at the baseball games. She shares it at the volleyball games. You want her to share your content so more and more people start looking and consuming your content. And, of course, fueling the content, like I said, social media is so very powerful. Organic is still, you can make a lot of traction with organic growth through social media, but you have to let people know it's out there. Just put it on your website, you're going to get the people that normally go to your website. But you're going to have to put it on your social channels. You might make a video about it. You got to promote that it's out there. But the problem is, we know these social media platforms are businesses. Facebook is a business. We have to remember this. They own Instagram. They own WhatsApp. They own a bunch of different things. They are a business. They're out there to make money. We've all heard about the organic reach going down with Facebook as their stock price continues to go up. This is such an old graphic that Facebook stock is over 200 as of this morning. People do not care about the data breaches. They do not care about their privacy. As long as they go on vacation, as long as they keep having kids, having their first steps, they're going to post stuff on Facebook to brag about their life. They are not leaving Facebook at the moment. They could maybe when some new platform comes on, but organic is going down for businesses and school districts. Their stock price keeps going up, so we have to find creative ways to maintain that growth on Facebook, because we have to remember marketing is an investment. And this is a Bible. I got this my senior year of college, so it's like 20 years old. But this, I still read this daily. You should see the inside of this book of all the notes and everything that I've made. And Sergio Ziman, He was the CMO of Coke. He said, marketing is an investment. You have to convince the people in leadership that marketing is an investment. That's why I think social media advertising is so powerful. And if you're getting backlash about this, try to convince leadership this is so very important because you can hyper-target your audience. Just some examples. Let's say I'm open up a new fitness gym with a daycare. You could go on Facebook and you can specifically target female mothers with preschool-age kids who love 24-hour fitness. You advertise that you have a new gym with a daycare. What about a women's engineering society? You could target female engineers who work in Dallas with a salary greater than $120,000. It's amazing what you can do to hyper-target audiences on Facebook. That means parents. That means elementary school parents. That means preschool parents. You can do pretty much anything you want. Geolocations around neighborhood schools. This is so very powerful. And then, of course, the last step, you need to evaluate what you've been doing. That could be through social media insights, Google Analytics. You can survey the people that you've been sending this out to. Because when you go through all these steps, you need to refine what you are doing. You need to go back and see which part of this is not working correctly and correct it. We had a pre-K enrollment that we were doing Facebook ads, we were doing all this stuff, and we saw all this traffic going to our application page. But no one was enrolling. We were like, what is going on? So we studied the analytics. We looked at the flows. We looked at where they were coming from, where they were going, where they were dropping off. And all we had to do is go on that page, and we looked and we analyzed. We found out that all we had to do was move this part of the section of the application down here, and this part up here, boom, took off like crazy. So always be evaluating on a consistent basis what you are doing and how it's working and what's not working.